enjoying your lunch, we're going to go ahead and get started with the program because I know many of your bosses are saying, get back to the office for billable time. So first of all, I'd like to introduce all of our faculty in the room. Judy Abbott, former Assistant State's Attorney, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice.
Do I stand up?
Sure. And Dr. Wendy Beller, Professor of Psychology and Chair of the Division of Behavioral and Social Sciences. Dr. Brian Borlas, Professor of Political Science. Dr. Justin Coffey, Associate Professor of History. Harry Kramer, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice. Clarice Hetzler, Lecturer in Criminal Justice and Psychology. Chris Pratt is our mock trial coach. And Dr. Neil Wright, who couldn't be with us today, is the Assistant Professor of Political Science. I'd also like to introduce one of my fellow Board of Trustees, Del Mitchell, who's the Vice Chair of the Board. Ann Behrens, our Vice President of Academic Affairs. Matt Bergman, Director of Development, Alumni Relations and Communications. Pasha Yates, our Communications Specialist. Ray Heilman, Director of Campus Ministry. And a former member of our faculty, and one that many of you may know, Dr. Bill Postiglione, who is now retired from QU. And while I'm at it, I'd like to acknowledge Nora Baldner and QU TV. While we're having this luncheon here, they're hosting 3 watch parties for our students in politics and the press. So that's happening in another building. So thank you, Nora. Thank you, QU TV. Finally, the person that I'd like to introduce to you next and call to say a few words is a gentleman who has really been a change agent for Quincy University. He's inspired collaboration and conviction, teamwork, and a lot of celebration. So our Chief Operating Officer, Phil Conover.
I just reached over and asked Ann, who's she talking about? I haven't been in a room with this many attorneys and judges, probably ever, and I'm developing an insatiable urge to go testify about something. On behalf of all of us at Quincy University, thank you for joining us. The Quincy University Center for Legal Studies is not news in this room, but is an obvious, very bright star for our Quincy University community, our community and region at large, and for our faculty here. This is just an outstanding component of our university. And it's an example of some of the momentum that we have going here. We're very proud of the work that our students are doing, and we're getting good news. We just had some great news over here a little while ago about some of our students in this program. So, but on behalf of all of us, all of our faculty and our students that are here, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it, and we're very proud of Quincy University and what the Law Studies program is doing here. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Phil. Today, the big part of our presentation is to present the John Evans Award. And for those of you who don't know, John Evans graced the hallways of Quincy University for decades. And although I was a business student, I knew John Evans. Everybody knew John Evans. And he was a leader. He was really inspiring for our students who were in political science and going on into law school. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Brian Borlas, who will present the John Evans Award.
First of all, I want to welcome you all here, and I want to welcome some of you back. There is nothing more distressing than seeing your former students as attorneys and potential judges and prosecutors. You get really, really old really, really fast doing this job. One of the things that we started doing here, 15 years ago or so, is we realized that we could not do what we do here without this community. And this particular community, the very first recipient of this award was the Adams County Bar Association, because they kicked in $700 to help us get the mock trial program started God knows how long ago. Since then, we have given this to people who have been either incredibly impressive, in some cases incredibly wealthy, and in other cases, people who have given us that which is far more important to our program than simply money. People who have given us their time. Generally speaking, the people that have won this award in the past and will continue to win this award are people that don't work for Quincy University, but people who volunteer for Quincy University. People who give us our time, people who give us their energy, people that help our students out. So that is the basis upon which we give this award. You can see on the plaque that we just picked up the other day, we have half a dozen or so different winners of this award. Every single person, some of them even work here now, did not work here when they volunteered. Without volunteers like Judy Abbott, without volunteers like Chris Pratt, Crystal Pratt, Josh Jones, etc., all of these people got this award because they dedicated hours of their lives to help us out in this program one way or another. Today's recipient of the award has given us not only his time and expertise, but combines both that sense of giving to the community here, but also with a remarkable resume. Now, I've only got 2 or 3 minutes, which for a college professor is a deep breath, all right? So I'm not going to run through the Honorable Mark Drummond's entire resume because you're going to be done with lunch. We're going to have to serve you dinner at that point. Here is a man who has contributed to the legal community not just here, but literally around the world, who has expanded the role of the International Criminal Court, has helped with training lawyers from Tanzania and Tasmania to the Middle Inn in Great Britain, to Oxford University, to small NIDA conferences all around the world. He's helped bring the jury system to Japan, even though in Japan the criminal just apologizes and confesses, and has brought to us annually, bringing us his presentation of the 8 Guides to Persuasion. This is a man, quite frankly, that I'm amazed he hasn't won it yet. In fact, we had like a problem when his name came up. The entire committee said, I thought we gave that to him a long time ago. And then we started looking through the list, and it's like, I guess we haven't given it to him yet. So a much belated and much overdue award. At this point, I think it's sitting right here, if I'm not mistaken. I would like to present to the Honorable Judge Drummond the John Evans Award from 2017. Thank you so much. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'd like to, once again, take a little lap around if you want to go sit in the judge's chair later in the courtroom. It's kind of a gas, really. You may be used to it, but the rest of these people, you know. At this point, the Honorable Mark Drummond.
Well, thank you all. It is truly an honor to receive this award. I will also tell you it's the worst kept secret in town. We in the legal profession, it's a constant search for the truth. And Judy called me up and said, we'd like you to address this group. And I said, that'd be great. Could you do it on this day? And I said, no, I'm going to be in Pike County doing a drug program down there. And she said, well, we'll change the day. I said, well, okay, that'll be fine. And so we changed the day, and then I came home, and my wife said, I've been invited to come hear you speak. So I knew there was something up, because she never comes to hear me. So I speak enough at home. And then when I walked in and saw my name on the plaque, it was pretty much a done deal. And then when the Father blessed God for me winning the award, I figured if God's involved, I have to be the recipient. But thank you so much for the award. It has truly been a pleasure. I don't know how many years ago Mark Schering asked me to come talk to a legal process, but it has been a pleasure each and every time. And you have quite a program here, and I'd like to talk about that a bit. So when anybody asks me to come to a group and speak, I always want to know who is the audience and you would like me to talk about? And Judy said, well, we'll have the students here, and Dr. Borlas is teaching international law, so we'd like some stories about international law. So I thought I would combine some comments to the students, combined with some hopefully amusing stories from my travels. And as you all know who've been in the lecture, I'm a big believer in the minister who was asked, why are your sermons so effective? He said, because I give the sermon 3 times. I tell them what I'm going to tell them, then I tell them, then I tell them what I told them. So here will be my speech. It's BBB. Be bold, be better, bounce back. Be bold. I want all the students to know that there is, as Goethe said, genius in boldness. And I will tell you that I am standing before you with this resume or with these experiences due to a skit that I did. It was 1985. I was taking the NETA course out in Boulder, Colorado. And for those of you who don't know about NETA, it's the National Institute of Trial Advocacy. And it was a group that was formed in 1971. It was like the American College of Trial Lawyers or the ABA, and they came together and they wanted to make the ultimate learning by doing experience, similar to what you do in the mock trials here. So they got together a group of great trial attorneys and great professors, and their first course was in the year 1972, and Del Mitchell was in the very first NETA course in Boulder. At that time, it was 4 weeks long. They had night lectures. I think they patterned it after the Marine Corps. I took it in 1985. It was only 3 weeks long then. And during the last week, they said, you know, we're going to set aside an hour for skits at the end. So if any of you have a skit that you'd like to do, you know, you've got an hour to do it. Now, there were 120 of us out there. It was a big course. And you could have said, you know, I've been working on this for 3 weeks. I really don't want to do a skit. I just want to go home and go to bed. But a few of us got together, and this guy, he was from Chicago, he had a beard. I said, you know what, you look like Lincoln. Why don't we do Lincoln at the NETA course? And I said, you play Lincoln. We made him a little cardboard hat. And we had Lincoln come to this trial advocacy course and give the Gettysburg Address. And I was the professor. So he stands up and he says, 407 years ago. I go, stop, Lincoln. Score? The jury's sitting there, is that a music score? Is it a baseball score? If they know it's a number, they're going, is that 20 or 25 years? Is that 87 or 107 years ago? Lincoln, if you mean 87 years ago, why don't you just say 87 years ago? And my co-actor said, you think that sounds better? I go, yeah, I think it sounds a lot better. And we took this beautiful speech and reduced it to 87 years ago, a bunch of guys got together in Philly and wrote a bunch of laws where everybody was more or less equal. Now, oh boy, have we got a war. And all these guys are dead, and we got to bury them here, so let's go south and win the war, which is basically what the Gettysburg Address said. All the people who did skits that night, most of them went on to teach for NETA. Now, I'm not standing in front of you telling you that I was better at opening statement, direct, or cross-examination than any of the other 120. But I was able to separate myself out by doing something that others were not willing to do. So I believe for all of you in this course, there is genius in boldness. And I will tell you that all of you in the mock trial group are doing a bold thing, and that is getting up in front of people and trying to persuade them. What is the #1 fear in the United States? If you give an American 10 things they fear the most, what's #1?
Public speaking.
Public speaking, correct. Death ranks 5, snakes come in at #2. So the fact that you were willing to put it on the line, you satisfied my first tip, and that is be bold. I will tell you a story that fits in with Be Bold from Kosovo. I was doing some work for the Department of Justice over in Kosovo, and we flew into Pristina. And my driver picked me up, and his name was Farouk. And Farouk was quite a character. And we were driving into Pristina, and Farouk is telling me about the war. And Kosovo is a new country, and they absolutely, if you want to go to a country that loves Americans, go to Kosovo. They've named their boulevard Bill Clinton, because when the Serbian tanks came into Kosovo, we pushed them back. So we're going down the street, and he's talking very poor, backward area. We are going by these gigantic cinder block buildings where they haven't been built out. And then we go by this gigantic brick factory that looks like something out of Mad Max Thunderdome. There is red dust all over the place, and Farouk's going about very poor, very backward. And at this point, a Bentley drives the other way. And I go, Farouk, that's a Bentley. He goes, it is stolen. He said, it is stolen. He goes, yes, the German police have a permanent office down in Pristina to recover stolen Bentleys and Mercedes. So we drive in, and we go to the embassy, and it could not have been more beautiful because it is up on a hill, and there was a low cloud covering the town, and you heard them singing from the mosques as we drove in. So we're driving in, and he drives me to where I'm staying, and it's a 2-flat. And right outside the 2-flat is a guard shack. And I said, Farouk, look at this, I have my own guard. And Farouk looks at me and goes, somebody important must be living above you. So my bedroom in the 2-flat was a safe room. The door to my bedroom was a steel vault door 6 inches wide with 6 gigantic bolts that went through. And the bad thing about it was the night before my plane was to take off, I locked myself out of my own safe room. So I called the embassy and I said, you know, I've locked myself out of the bedroom. And they go, we will send somebody over. So they send this guy over. He goes, which door? I point to the bedroom. He says, oh no. I said, the bolts aren't engaged. It's just the little handle down there. He pulls out a credit card, pops over the credit card. So anyway, my story about boldness is we were doing an impeachment exercise. And since it is in a different language, I had a translator. Her name was Nadia. We were doing an impeachment exercise, and it was a very simple impeachment exercise. The witness on the stand said the light was red. There is a witness statement that said the light is green. So we want the attorney to impeach the witness on red versus green light. Excuse me, I've got to get a little water. And what we want the attorney to do is to just cross-examine the witness with single fact leading questions. You know, you gave a statement. You gave a statement out at the scene. You gave it to an officer. You wouldn't lie to an officer, would you? Look at your statement. 3rd paragraph, 2nd sentence, the light was green, and that's it. Well, this student was not getting it. I mean, he was all around it, but he just wouldn't bluntly go to the impeaching statement. He would ask questions like, well, you have been inconsistent in your version of the facts before, haven't you? And the witness goes, I don't know what you mean. And you have told different versions from time to time. And I kept going, no, just go to the statement. This statement, it's like an island of safety. As long as you are standing on the words of this statement, you are totally safe. Well, he still wasn't getting it. And the translator gets so upset with this guy. She goes, Judge Drummond? I go, yes. She goes, let me try. She takes and she throws a statement down in front of the guy, and there is a flurry of language. And I'm pretty sure, even though I don't know the language, that she said, if you don't read the exact words on this statement, I'm going to kick your... The guy nailed it. The guy nailed it. She walks back with the statement, smiling. She hands it to me. She goes, Judge Drummond? I go, yes, Nadia. She goes, you know what I'm doing after I translate? I said, no, Nadia. She goes, I'm going to law school. I can do this. She went to law school. Be better. I once read a book on success, and I got one line out of it that I really liked, and that was, it is easy to get to the top because there is so little competition. And you would think that that is counterintuitive, especially in the area of law. I mean, you're dealing with people who are bright and they're educated. But I've learned time and time again that you don't need to be twice as good as the next person. You just need to be a little bit better. It's like the two guys being chased by the bear. You know, they're running, and the one guy goes, I hope we can outrun this bear. And the other guy goes, I don't care about outrunning the bear. And the other guy goes, you don't? He goes, I just care about outrunning you. So you just need to be a little bit better. And I brought this with me today. You know, I will have attorneys, and none of the attorneys in this room have violated this. But I want you to show you two things. The first, a 3-ring binder. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a work of art. I love 3-ring binders. This is the ACO clip. This is the bane of my existence. Here's what will happen for the attorneys who don't want to go the extra mile. Let's take a divorce case. They will have subpoenaed 3 years of bank records in the divorce case. Because they want to make sure they don't want to leave anything out, they will take the 3 years of records, and this is actually a small one. I have seen some that are like 3 or 4 inches wide. And they will take and they will jam years of bank records into the ACO clip. I actually believe they hire retired Russian weightlifters to get these things over. Once you release papers from the bondage of the ACO clip, it is impossible to get them back in. So they will use the ACO clip, but the attorneys who go the extra mile, they take the pertinent documents out. They put them in 3-ring binders. They have a binder for themselves. They have a binder for the other attorney. They have the binder for the witness. And they have a binder for me. And it is beautiful. So it's just a little bit more that you do. Now, I will tell you that all of you who are in this program will be better. You will be a step ahead. You will